Hey, Type Proof, Christopher. How are you both doing? Hey, Mark. It was my pleasure. Actual fact, I'm really happy that I did do those videos because I can look back and watch them and really relive, because I did do quite comprehensive coverage. Not literally every minute, but you know, it was pretty good coverage. It is just gone 11 p.m. and to be honest, I usually start at midnight, but the last few weeks I've been starting a little bit earlier to try and get to bed a little bit earlier, to be honest. A couple of splits in my thumb, hence the tape. A little painful. It takes usually a couple of days to heal enough so that I can put pressure on it. I get them quite often. They're a result of just overuse and pressure when you're either sanding or on the shaping wheel or something like that, where you're pushing and pushing and pushing, and just the pressure, constant pressure, just splits the skin every so often. So this is predominantly Capstan Blue Ready Rubbed, which is from December 21, the tin date. I've had it open for a few weeks, maybe 3 weeks or so. When I first smoked it, it was good, and then second or third smoke wasn't as good. Obviously, I've got to smoke it in different pipes. I found it to be a little bit more punchy than Orley Golden Sliced. Hi, Daniel. And so this is basically, I'm going to be breaking in a new pipe soon. So I wanted something which would give me a little bit more flavour, and I've just filled it out a little bit with some Orley Golden Sliced just to smooth it off a little bit, because I do find that the blue is a little bit more punchy. Hey Adam, how you doing? J Babio, hola, buenas noches. How you doing, Jose? Mark, I think I have tried them. I'm not entirely sure. Aren't they Virginia blends? I have tried. I would use Northwoods on a Latakia pipe. If it was going to be a pipe that I was going to be keeping for Latakia blends, then yes, I would use Northwoods without hesitation. But I wouldn't use it to break in a pipe which I was going to be using for Virginia blends. And to be honest, when I'm breaking in a new pipe, I will generally use Virginia simply so that I've still got the option of using the pipe for something else. You know, when you say I was going to use it on, I mean, I could switch in afterwards anyway. It's not the end of the world. But if I break in a pipe with a Virginia blend, I have the option of keeping it as a Virginia blend pipe, or going to Latakia, or going to aromatic. By breaking it in with Virginia, I'm not hedging my bets. It's not to say that I'm hedging my bets with the others, but it might just take a few balls to get rid of whatever I was smoking. So if it was like a strong aromatic, it might take a bowl or two to just move it over to Virginia or something like that. So I just simplify matters, and I just start off usually, unless I know absolutely sure it's going to be a Latakia pipe or a aromatic pipe, then I'll just go neutral and use a Virginia blend. All right. Hey Oscar, how you doing? Christopher. Yeah, tobacco usually gets better after opening. That's why I've jarred it up and I've left it for a few weeks. And whenever I do that, I try to sort of dip in after a few weeks every so often. My hands are looking pretty rough. One of my thoughts on toasting the foot of a cigar before lighting. I do it and it works well. I heard it holds more flavour in the cigar. My thoughts. Toasting the foot of a cigar is the standard way of lighting a cigar. I always do that. It's part of the lighting process. I wouldn't say it's something called doing it before lighting the cigar. It's part of lighting the cigar. So as you're lighting it, you toast the foot, and then once the foot is blackened, put it to your mouth and light it. It's not something I would do 10 minutes before or an hour before. It's part of the lighting process. But yes, I would agree that the correct way is to toast it first. Adam, good for you. Well, you have the benefit of having watched somebody doing it many, many times, whereas I didn't have that benefit. I started with regular traditional tools, and that was fine. I mean, I used a regular turning tool for a couple of years. I learned how to make pipes using the parting tool, and it's only later on that I went over to the carbide tip tools. It hasn't changed anything dramatically. The tools that I used before were perfectly fine, but the main thing is that, especially with the round, what are they called now? The skews, not the skews, the gouges. They're more complicated to sharpen on traditional chisels. I mean, obviously you learn how to do that on a grinder and that kind of thing, but with the carbide tip tools, you can just change them out and you just don't have to worry about sharpening. Traditionalists, purists might say it's a lazy way of going, but I don't really care. I'm not a wood turner, I'm a pipe maker. And for me, that's the quickest and simplest and safest and most time efficient way for me to make pipes, is to not worry about sharpening the tools. And actually, the way they're made, so I keep some spares on hand, only of the square one. I mean, I have two other chisels, but these are the ones I keep spares on because I can't do without those. I suppose I can always use my old chisel again, but I always keep a couple spare. They're not cheap as well. They're about £15 each one. So this is a previous one which is basically very, very used, but essentially you can sharpen these as well. You can buy these little diamond tipped square metal plates, and you buy a special solution. You put the solution on the plate, you put that on the plate, and you keep it flat, and you just do that, and essentially you're grinding down the surface, and what you're doing is creating a new sharp edge, because this angle is constant. So what you're doing is just reducing the height and creating a new edge a little bit further down, and you can use them again. That's why I keep the old ones. I do have the plate and the sharpening solution, but I've never really gone at it properly. But I keep some of the old ones just because one day I'll experiment and try and do that. For tapered bowls, I use tapered bits. As you can see, that's tapered, and that's tapered. That one's slightly wider, as opposed to the U-shaped ones. Hey Zippo, how you doing? what I was saying the other day about having a U-shape is that this here, this shoulder here, this where that taper stops for the U-shape, you have to make sure that that's rounded a little bit, otherwise you end up with a line in the bowl, at the bottom of the bowl, about a centimeter up, however the height of that is, and you end up with a little shoulder, and you don't want that. You want that to be a constant smooth progression from the walls of the chamber down to the U-shape. So that's something to bear in mind. This is very frustrating. I always sort of kind of think that I'm being a conspiracy theorist when what was I saying? What was I saying? Anyone? I've lost my train of thought. Conspiracy theorist. Oh yeah, my internet connection has suddenly slowed down in the last week or two, and just interestingly, I got a phone call from because I'm basically out of contract now and I'm a free agent. I can go and get any deal I want. But I've stayed with the people that I've been with. But I had a call suddenly out of the blue from the company saying, do I want to have I noticed that my speed of my thing has slowed down? Do I want to get this fantastic bells and whistles contract? And I've had this before. I've had this more than once at the end of my contract. And I don't know why that hasn't been dealt with and made illegal. There's no question about it that they're messing me around. It's not the first time, and it's not a coincidence. And that alone makes me want to just leave that company. And you know, it's very frustrating. Well, usually the reason why you would taper a pipe is obviously hey Phil, how you doing? If a customer particularly wants a tapered bowl, that's fine. But otherwise, if you're making a Dublin shaped pipe, or if you're making a pipe with thin walls, then you would taper it so that the walls are either getting thicker as you go down, or if it's a Dublin shape like my Bulldog stroke Dublin here, because it thins down quite a bit, so you have to, if you taper it, so you're thinning down inside the bowl too, so the thickness of the walls stay constant, even if the shape is not constant. So even though it's getting narrower and narrower and narrower here, the inside of the pipe is not, because Although it's in other words, it is getting narrower and narrower and narrower in line with the outside, so that the thickness of the wall stays constant. If it wouldn't, and it would be a U-shaped drill, then it would be very, very wafer thin over here and likely to burn through. So when you're doing a Dublin shaped, any tapered bowl, any bowl that tapers on the outside, you need to use a tapered bit. I didn't find any new blends to try in Rome. I mean, I saw some blends that I hadn't tried before, but in actual fact, tobacco is really expensive there, pipe tobacco. It's funny because cigars are cheaper than here, but pipe tobacco, some of it is more expensive. The pipe tobacco that I wanted to try was Robert McConnell. They had a really good range of Robert McConnell tobaccos, but they were like approaching 30 quid, 30 euros for a tin of 50 grams. And to be honest, I'm unless I would have seen something really unusual, I wasn't really on the hunt for it. I didn't have a huge amount of money to spend, and what I did have to spend, I kind of spent it on cigars, because cigars are not plentiful anymore, whereas pipe tobacco I have plenty of, thankfully. So there you go. Cheers, Cliff. Thank you very much. I got your email and I had a quick look at your video, but for some reason I am subscribed, but it didn't come into my feed. So you're definitely onto something there. I don't know what, but I don't understand why it didn't show up. No, Esoterica is only in America. There are no Esoterica blends anywhere other than America, officially. Sensei Phil, yeah. I did see that bit. So in Italy I got 2 pipes. So the first one I got was the Talamona from Fincato, which is a lovely grained bent billiard, and really, really nice grain on it. That's a fairly, basic straight. In terms of a shape, it's fairly standard, but very nice thick walls, and I do need to thin out the bite zone. It's too thick for me. Let me actually measure it. I haven't measured it. It's 5.65. It's at least a millimeter wider than I would usually do. I just have to check before I do anything, because it depends on how wide the drill is internally. Because these pipes, all of the factory pipes that you're going to buy, nearly all of them, they are drilled from end to end at the same diameter. They don't taper off at the end. That's why they're so thick. So you have to be really careful so that you don't actually shave right through. And I think this one, I might not even be able to do anything with it. It's really, might be able to take some off the bottom, but not off the top. I think the top is very close. Yeah, I might be able to take some off the bottom. Let's see. So, I'm still very happy with that. It's got some really nice grain, as I said. It's got some nice sort of straight, flamey grain around the bowl, and really nice bird's eye on the bottom there. It is a nice pipe. I'm a bit disappointed that they gave me their own sort of universal bag. They didn't give me the Talamona bag or box. I might get in touch with them about that. I actually did send them pictures of the pipe that I made, the Skipper tribute that I made. This one here. This was inspired by the Rinaldo Skipper that I saw with the green stem there at the Fincato shop. So I made this pipe, which, with the stepped silver and the tapered stem. And I'm going to order up a variety of silver sizes so I can do a triple step as like in the original Rinaldo. But this one sold pretty much straight away, thankfully. So I'll have to do some more of those at some point. That stem is a pre-molded stem, pretty sure about that. I mean, they'll have done something to it, but it's pretty much a pre-molded one. So the second pipe I got was a Sayakapo, and as I mentioned in my video the other day, this one was just like completely by chance. This wasn't in one of the tobacconists that I was planning to go to. Comes with a nice little booklet. So I had intended on going to Fincato and to Novelli. Both of those had been recommended to me by Mike, Briar Blues. And the Novelli one took a little bit longer to find, but we found it. And I had a bit of a run round to get to the Fincato one because of the timings, but we got there. So the Talamona came from Fincato. I bought nothing at the Novelli store. I wish I could have bought one of the Parker pipes, but they were just too much money for me. But just walking around from street to street, from one piazza to the next, came across a tobacconist, a small tabaki they call tobacconist, a little sort of hole in the wall kind of thing, a small place, a little kiosk almost, and you had a tiny little display, a glass display on the wall with maybe 10 or 12 pipes in there. And I looked at two of them. One of them was a Caminetto underwood, like a drip wax kind of underwood kind of finish, but it was very, very tall stacked. I think I talked about this in one of the other videos, and I was very, very tempted to buy that pipe. And then I saw this one, and in the end I went for this because, number one, this is a 9mm pipe, and the other one wasn't, and I'd have had to have changed that. Also, the drill on that one was much narrower than this, and I wasn't happy with the button either. The button was too small on the stem, so there was too many sort of ifs and buts with it, and it was more expensive. So this is the one I went for, and I'm very happy with the decision. So this is the Sayakapo billiard with a silver adornment there, and a really, really lovely sandblast, real craggy sandblast. And I did say that I would break this in tonight on London Calling. Meal stem, is that what this is called? Meal? Oh, honey, is that what it's called? Honey stem. It's a very interesting material. It's got this kind of webby, kind of darker brown color running through it. It's not a swirl, it's like a honeycomb almost kind of idea, but it's really nice. So we're going to break that in. And very interestingly, Mike mentioned that I don't need to do the honey treatment, although I'm going to, but he said you don't need to because they treat all of their bowls with like a sugared water kind of treatment, to kind of have the same effect as the honey. But for the honey, I'm still going to do it, just because I think the honey just gives it, the cake will just go faster. That's just my experience, and while I don't doubt Mike one iota. See, this one, the Sayakapo, I can see is tapered, and in actual fact the stem is thinner, and I can smoke that without touching it, which is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to measure it, but I'm going to guess it's about 4.74 mil, which is pretty much, I will make mine anywhere from 4.2 to 4.8, 4.9, depending on the pipe. Hey, John. So I've got a little bit of a mix of Capstan Blue Ready rubbed with some Orlik Golden sliced here. and that's going to be my break-in mixture for tonight. I'm not expecting any great shakes. I wouldn't expect any great shakes from a first smoke, to be honest, in any event in a pipe. But the Capstan Blue is not that old, and the Oleg Golden Slice is not that old. It's a new tin. So, like I said, I'm not expecting any great shakes, but we shall see. I have been thinking of actually doing a bowl coating, not a carbonized one, but one, like similar to what Mike was talking about, based around honeyed water, something like that. So it just gives it that little bit of a start. Let's see. And So To Bed, I actually think is quite a nice blend. I find it to be very similar to the Royal Jersey Latakia. The reason why I don't smoke it very often is because I find it to be, it's got a very sort of fermented flavor, almost cheesy, fermented cheesy kind of flavor. And I find, for some reason, I can't explain it, but the Royal Jersey gave me heartburn. I don't know why a tobacco should give me heartburn, but it did. And because And So To Bed is so similar, I decided, best not to mess around with it. But that was just my personal experience. Bit weird, I know. C'est la vie. Alright, so this tobacco's been sitting out for quite a while now. The Royal Jersey, did you find them to be similar? So the Royal Jersey is under the JF Germain brand. Yeah, I do have some tins, a couple of tins, I think, in my cellar, or at least one quite old tin of And So To Bed. I have cleaned out this pipe already. Did that on Friday, I think. It's quite a big pipe, quite a big bowl. Northwoods, yeah, I don't blame you. I prefer Northwoods any day of the week. Although, some of the Latakia blends are fantastic. Special Latakia Flake, I think it's a great blend. I think it's underrated. Maybe it's because you guys can't get it very easily, but I think it's great. Well, here goes. Maiden voyage for my Ser Jacopo Italian pipe, purchased in Italy. I've always said that I'm not a sentimental pipe collector, because probably most of the pipes that I've bought haven't had any sentimental event happen in connection with the pipes. I've just bought them whenever we're either online or in a tobacconist here in the UK, but they haven't been associated with anything in particular. This is really the first time. So I think that Abel Moose. So I think that this pipe will have a special association for me. I think it may well do. It's quite a large pipe. It's not a lunting pipe. It's not a car pipe. There you go, Daniel. Yeah, I was just saying that. I think this will be a stay-at-home pipe. unless I'm going to a club or something like that where I'll be sitting down. Hey bud, how you doing? $17.92. I don't think I've smoked that. If I have, it would have been 7 years ago, right when I started. The draw's good. The button's quite comfortable. Getting a little bit of tongue bite, but that's to be expected on a new pipe, especially with all that sugar coming through from the honey. Yeah, I've never really cared for 1792 either. I don't think I'll be opening the draft hole unless I find that it keeps going out, but otherwise it seems to be just fine. It's going to be pretty close. I think the draft hole is probably around 4 mil. I had a look at it. Well, I am getting some nice flavors through. What I've taken to doing sometimes now is when I break in a new pipe, I do the honey, then the next bowl I do the honey again. I'll, just clean it out very sort of not too much, just clean it out a little bit, and then enough to get rid of any big pieces of tobacco or anything that's stuck to the walls, and then redo the honey. I can see I'm going to have to do some intensive care on my hands. They were a lot better, but they've started to get really dry again. And when I do intensive care, I put hand cream on, loads of it, and then I put rubber gloves on overnight. Surgical gloves, these thin gloves that I use when I'm working. I'll sort of slather on loads of cream, put the gloves on overnight, and it's like an intensive care, and it really, really heals it up. Within 2 or 3 nights, your hands are smooth. Yes, there is a filter in it. I don't smoke without filters. This is Capstan Blue ready rubbed together with a little bit of Audit Golden sliced. A good question, Daniel. I don't know any manufacturers that have a wide open drill. But I can only measure that against 9 mil. If it wasn't 9 mil, then maybe they'd be just fine. 3.5 mil without a filter for a standard tenon and a standard drill is, for many people, that's absolutely fine. That's not going to help, is it? There was a little bit of tobacco in the draft hole there, I think. Probably stuck to honey or something. You do have to clean it out, the draft hole, after you finish the first bowl where you've had honey in the pipe. Make sure that that's not a place where you get a build up because of stuff sticking to the honey right by the draft hole. Other balm. Pull the other one. Well, the Savinelli tenons are stepped. So if you drill out the 6mm bit, you end up with a 9mm. So you can convert any 6mm pipe from Savinelli to 9mm if you want to. I've ordered up, you know, you got the maker's mark on the stem. So with Dunhill, you've got a white spot here, you've got a J for Jacopo. I had some rods made up. I have to still play around with it and see if I'm going to use it. I have to do some experimenting. But I've had these made. So they've got the Star of David, which I use as my grading, as you know, for my pipes. So I had these made up. So I may well use these as my maker's mark over here. We shall see. That probably didn't focus. Let's try again. Don't know if you can see that. There you go. So that's a custom-made insert. Yeah, these are mosaic pins, they're called. But I had this one made specifically for me. And I might sort of experiment with different colors in between. This one has black, and I might do different colors, maybe. I would have liked for it to not have been so big, but there's a limit to how small they can go. This is 5mm diameter, which is not the end of the world, but I have to. No, these are actually made in Europe. These are actually made in Turkey, of all places. Currently, obviously going through a lot of trouble now, but these were made in Turkey, and they were delivered super fast. I mean, I've been sort of talking with the guy over a period of a few weeks, but once he was ready to do it, he basically said, okay, he's going to get to it and they'll be ready in a few days. He sent me a picture, sent him the payment. Literally within 2 or 3 days, I had them in my hands. Well, Mastro de Paya, their one is even larger. It's more than 5mm. There's quite a few people who have larger ones. I mean, Chris Asquith, his cloverleaf one is also, if you measure it, it's going to be that kind of size. And there's plenty of people who, what's his name, the American guy, what's the American pipe company, what's his name, Phil? He's got also like a star shaped, which is bigger than this. Yeah, Daniel, that's a really good point. I don't know. Mark Tinsky chip, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so his one's bigger than that, so it's obviously doable. So I hope it'll work out. I'm more concerned about the time. I've never done it, so I've got to work out how to do it in a way which is going to be accurate. You want it to be dead center on top. I've got no idea. I haven't even thought about how I'm going to do that and how I'm going to drill it perfectly each time. Probably have to get some kind of drill press. I mean, I've got a drill press, but it would need to be quite precise. Well, he actually gets them made, and he gets pre-made, pre-cast stems with it in there. Wow, that's pretty cool. In your case, yeah, Cliff, I can understand that you're washing your hands all the time. You have to do that, but I'd imagine that I'd have to get some kind of drill bit also, which isn't tapered at the end. Most high-speed steel drill bits will have a slight taper at the end, you know, where it comes to a tip. But it really needs one of these flat-ended ones. I forget what they're called now. It's like a cutting drill bit. So it literally drills a small, shallow, flat, almost like a Forstner bit. End mill, thank you. I'm going to write that down so I forget. Yeah, you're probably right, Cliff. Bull moose, that's you know, I've had that problem with factory pipes that I've bought many times. Really and truly, you should be able to pass a filter, a pipe cleaner. Obviously, with 9mm, that wouldn't make a difference anyway if you've got a filter in there. But I still won't mind to pass a pipe cleaner, even if, you know, if somebody was to smoke it without a filter. Obviously, because it's going into a large mortise, it can kind of get lost in there. But if you find that your pipe cleaner comes to a stop, then sometimes if you twist it 180 degrees, you'll find that it finds its way in. That takes a bit of getting used to, but it does work a lot of times. So whenever it hits a stop, twist it at 180 degrees, and then sort of give it a gentle push as you're twisting it, and most times it'll find its way. Unless it's completely off, you know. If it's way off, then you're not going to do it, and the smoke itself won't be a good smoke anyway. Phil, if this measures exactly 5mm, do I want a 5mm drill bit? And then I sort of tap it in with a hammer so that it really wedges in with a spot of glue at the bottom. Is that what I would do? Or would I need a bigger drill bit? Yes, being I should use a 5mm drill bit. Right, okay. What would you advise to cut it with? I was thinking just using a rotary thing on a grinder on the rotary tool on my Dremel would probably be the most accurate way of doing it, I would have thought. The least loss of material. A jeweler's saw. I was thinking of using something like that. I haven't tried it yet. Hey Alan, a jeweler's saw, I assume that's one of those very thin, like a hacksaw but smaller, is that right? Yeah, I'll cut it so that it's proud, once it's in, and then just sand it down. I don't know if it's got diamond grit in it or not. I've got no way of knowing. Or file it, yeah. What, to use the side of a file to cut it? To just go straight through it with a file? Is that what you're saying? Or do you mean afterwards to file it around on the stem once it's in? It says not to build heat. What's the issue with building heat? It's going to expand, you mean? It'll make the hole bigger? Or melt the glue? What's the issue with that? They grab the material even if you're doing it at high speed? I mean, I'll have to have the material in a vise. Otherwise it would just be too dangerous. I'll have to set up a vise. I do have a vise downstairs. Yeah, the breaker epoxy, right? Okay. Hey Wretched, how you doing? Yeah. Smoking the new Siriacapo, purchased in Rome. Almost forgot. I've got a couple of other pipes to show you. So first of all, this is the Pipe Club of London's pipe for 2023, the club pipe. I had it ordered quite some time ago. He held it for me because I had to just put some money together to pay for it. Paid for it before I went away, and it arrived. So I want to show you that one tonight. And this other pipe is a pipe that I got as part of a trade, a carver's trade. Not a trade, it was this was organised by Autumn Pipes. Every year around the Christmas holiday period, New Year, around that time, they have a raffle where they put names in a hat of pipe makers, established pipe makers, and they just pair up two makers out of all of, they pair up all of everybody with somebody else, and you make each other a pipe. So I sent him a pipe, and he sent me a pipe. And then I've got an idea of what it looks like, because he showed me. But still, to see it in the flesh is always different. So first of all, this is a Peter Jeppesen pipe, sometimes known as Nirup. The Jeppesen ones are supposed to be a little bit more exclusive. Peter Jeppesen is his name, and Nirup pipes is, the vast majority of his pipes come under the Nirup banner. but occasionally, you know, the better ones, maybe better grain, maybe more adornment, more silver, something. There's usually something special about them, and those come under the Peder Jeppesen name. So this is the Pipe Club of London's 2023 pipe. So it's like a sandblasted acorn egg type thing. It has a bit of a sort of a sharp point at the bottom. You can see it's got like a shallow blast, nice ring grain on it, and it has a really nice sterling silver band on the shank, which says Pipe Club of London 2023. Strawberry-ish, yeah. And it's got Peder Jeppesen at the bottom as opposed to Nerup. So that just gives it a little bit of extra kudos, I guess. It's 9mm, I think it should be. They're all supposed to be 9mm. I imagine this middle bit comes out. Yeah. I just extracted a tooth cliff. Might have to do a little bit of work on that. Don't know if you can see that. Anyway, the drill is really, really high. Let's see what it's like with a filter in. Sometimes it doesn't really matter with a 9mm because there's enough of the filter covering the hole. Yeah, it's okay. That's okay. That draws fine. So nice little pipe, nice thick walls. That should really be a good smoking pipe. I'm just thinking whether I want to sand off the bowl coating. I really don't like bowl coatings. You know, right at the beginning, I wouldn't even give it a second thought when I first started smoking a pipe. But I've never actually removed the bowl coating. But the drill in the chamber is perfect. It comes in right at the nadir of the bowl, so I'm very happy about that. And the draw seems to be fine. Okay. Yeah, Pinata colors. Right, yeah, it is a good black, for sure. Alright, so that's that pipe. So this one is from a carver in the Czech Republic. And his name is Marek Cikl, C-I-K-L. I'd not heard of him before, but he makes nice pipes. So this is a tapered, I suppose you'd call it a volcano, sorry, panelled volcano with a very sort of light blast. Very nicely panelled shank and stem, very well done. the bit is very fine. The sandblast is really very fine. It's almost like a leathery finish. And he made it 9mm. He said he doesn't do 9mm that often, but he made it 9mm for me. And he's actually got a little insert in there, so that goes in nicely in and out. I'm not sure why he's done that. If maybe that's just what he does as a finish. I guess that also means that I can take the stem in and out. Well, maybe that's why he's done it, so I can change the filter while it's still hot. That's quite cool. I'll have to ask him about that. That's a nice feature. But really impressive work. About wall thickness, maybe. That's the problem with oval shanks, square shanks, always an issue. I've been trying to get my head around getting silver around an oval shank. You know, maybe taking a larger circular ring and just shaping it around an oval shank. Because the Canadians, I mean, I've sent them all off now. All the pipes that have been bought recently have all been sent off now, but the recent Canadians that I've done came out beautiful, but they're quite chunky in order to avoid that issue. But I'd like to come up with something that will help deal with that. That's a nice looking pipe. I do like this one as well. Initially I thought this was a little bit jarring, this point at the bottom, but it's growing on me. I do like a bent shank. It does mean that the drill is at quite an acute angle and it's been shaped around the drill. So that's nice. Nice chunk of silver on there as well. I'm assuming that's silver. It looks tarnished. Nicely hammered finish. And I like the idea that that the words are proud rather than engraved. That's really good. That's been done with some kind of machine. Very happy with that. It's worthwhile being a member of the Pipe Club of London, if only for the pipe club, for the club pipe, because you get them at a fantastic rate. Because they're buying them in bulk, they get a really good rate, and it's just it's worthwhile just for that. I mean, the membership, the sort of online membership, is what, 25-30 quid a year. It's really nothing, and for that you get the quarterly leaflet that comes through, and you get those. You have access to the club pipe, which is, it's worth it just for that, in my opinion. well, considering it's the first smoke, I'm getting quite a bit of flavour through, which is good. The combustion seems a little bit, not quite sure about, maybe it's the way I packed the bowl. You did use one of your photos of you in full flight in Bruce Lee mode. If you guys haven't seen Cliff's latest video, I urge you to go and watch it. For the production value alone, he's really become a film producer in that one. As long as you're not offended by weapons and guns and ninja styles. I'm surprised we didn't see any nunchucks there, Cliff. How many bowls does it take to fully break in a bowl? How long is a piece of string? Every pipe is different. Cliff's channel is Pipe Ninja, right there. Every pipe is different. You know, some pipes will be good from the off virtually. I've got a pipe here from Chacon, which was the Pipe Club of London's pipe for 2021, was it? Yeah, this is the Pipe Club of London's club pipe for 2021. It's a silver band, which is all tarnished now, but a very nice little bulldog, squat bulldog, and this smoked well from literally the first bowl. And it's quite a neutral smoker as well. Some pipes can take hundreds of bowls to break in. Some pipes never break in. Some pipes can be stubborn, and you'll smoke them and smoke them and smoke them. You might have had 200 bowls through it, and then suddenly one day, from one day to the next, it'll just turn and become a great pipe. I haven't had that experience myself, but I've seen many people talk about that. I have had a pipe, which I'm not going to say the maker now. Actually, he's no longer alive, but still. I had a pipe which I loved the shape of the pipe. It was a Danish pipe. And I couldn't get a good smoke out of it. It was bitter. And in the end, I moved it to Latakia blends, because Latakia obviously will mask a lot of those, whatever was bothering me. And it was okay as a Latakia. It wasn't great, but it was okay. And one day when I was working on it, I managed to crack the shank. I don't remember what I was doing, but I managed to break the shank. And the shank broke because when I looked at it, it had a huge pit on the shank, and it was full of black gunge. You know, sometimes when you get a pit, it's full of earth or sand or moldy stuff, briar. And the more I picked away at it, the bigger it became. So, and this pipe had been sandblasted, either filled badly or whatever it was. There was a whole chunk of, so it was a miracle it had stayed together, because there was a huge chunk of it which was just nothing. And then it didn't surprise me why it was so bitter. There was so much rubbish in there, and in the end I basically destroyed the pipe and I threw it away. But I was very, very unhappy about it, because that was one of my favorite pipes. And actually for a while it was a muse for my Danish billiards. It was kind of, I actually traced it a few times in the early days before I kind of got used to doing certain shapes. I used that as a template, and I would draw around it on the block to get a shape of a Danish billiard, sort of randy-ish kind of bull. And it was based around that pipe really. But yeah, that did upset me because it was a favorite pipe of mine to look at. It was a classic Danish shape, but I just couldn't get a good smoke out of it. You see the color is already sort of darkening on the rim. You can see the bird's eye there. Kind of itching to have one of these. I brought back a 5 box of H. Hartman half Coronas. Yeah, back in the day when the cigars were cheaper, I used to buy these by the box of 25. Nice little short smoke. Kind of regret that I didn't buy more. Hey Andrew, how you doing? I remember when Elvis died. I was on vacation. I was also probably a similar age to you. How old are you, Phil? Cliff. We must be similar age. Almost 54. We are very similar age. I'm 54 in April. I don't feel like I'm 54. Sometimes I feel like I'm 64, but most of the time I feel like I'm maybe 34 to 44. In my head, I'm younger than I am. Physically, I feel older because of my weight and the wear and tear on my joints, but mentally I feel younger. I think most of us probably do. The old man. Yeah, I decided to come on earlier, otherwise it ends up being 2, 3 in the morning. So I figured, why not? I wasn't doing anything else. I went to visit my parents, spent some time there. Hey 45, how you doing? Nice to see you. I went to see my parents. I went there for about an hour. And then I came back and helped my kids. They're doing some party stuff, some creative stuff which they wanted a hand with. And then I figured I might as well go on. So instead of finishing at 2 in the morning, I can finish, maybe 12:30 or 1 o'clock. And then don't have to go to bed as late. But in the last couple of weeks I have been on earlier, and I've still gone to bed really late. So Saturday nights I tend to go to bed late and suffer the next day. So for those of you who are coming in, I'm now breaking in my Ser Jacopo that I purchased in Rome. and it's working quite well so far. It's not blowing me away, but I've got to give it a chance. It's only the first bowl. Exactly, Phil. You see somebody that you don't know. Really nice sandblast, yeah. Nice and craggy. Hey, Larry. I was showing this earlier, Andrew. I had these made, these mosaic pins. I'm gonna experiment first, but I might be using these as my maker's mark on the stems. Excuse my rough hands. I had them custom made by a guy in Turkey, and just got them today. So I've started off with a couple of lengths of it to see how it goes. So there's enough there for quite a few pipes. I would have liked them to be narrower. They're 5mm, but I think it would have been too small to get the detail smaller than that. So I think it's done well. So I'll be experimenting with that. Actually, I wonder if there's a jig that I can get for, I'm pretty sure there is, for the Dremel, to make it into a mini drill press. I really don't want to have to bring out my drill press. I haven't got the room for it really, and it's not the best quality drill press in the world either. I almost kind of want to just get a small little thing which is accurate just for that purpose, you know, so it doesn't take up much room. A maker's mark, indeed. That's the idea. Let's have a quick look. Dremel. Drill press. Yeah. I can see that there are, but there are also some small drill presses which look like they're pretty professional looking. I'll have to look into that. That looks pretty good. It looks the part. I mean, the main thing for me is that there isn't any wiggle on the drill. The fill in the bulb went off like a sparkler. Ooh. What, there was a fill inside the bulb? You don't want that happening while you're driving. Have you had that when you have an ember flying out of your thing and into your lap? Or between your legs on the seat? That's a bit of fun. Well, if it's sparkled and come out, it's probably loose. If you've got something small and sharp, initially try and scrape it out. Don't use a power tool initially, and see if you can scrape it out. Something like a a round file, something like that, a little pick of some kind, and then just mud it out. Try and clean it so in case there's any junk in there which will taste foul, but if you really want to use something like a rotary tool and just put a very small head on it, something like that, and just clean it out a bit like a dentist, and just clean the hole a little bit and just fill it with mud. In terms of how deep you can go, if the hole is already there, it's already there. If they've filled it with something, then the hole is already there, so it is what it is. Shalom George. Got out front bubble. Seat back and my jacket. Yeah. One of the I can't remember who it was who was giving tips about driving and smoking a pipe. And one of the most sensible things which I heard him say, I don't remember who it was, if it was matches or cane rod maybe, and he was basically saying that when you're smoking a pipe, either smoke a bent pipe, or if you're going to smoke a straight pipe, always have it on the side of your mouth, because God forbid anything happens, you have an accident and you hit something, your steering wheel or whatever, when you brake sharply, if that's straight on, that's going straight down your throat. Very dangerous. So if you hold it in the side of your mouth, it's just going to get knocked out. Or if it's a bent pipe, it's going to get knocked out like that. Worst comes to worst, you might knock a tooth out. So that's very, very good advice. Probably best off not smoking a straight pipe when you drive. And keep it in the side of your mouth. Airbag, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Most of my pipes are bent anyway. I'm trying to see what pipes I've got that are straight. That Chacombe I showed you is straight. I've got a Canadian, one of my own. That one. That's a straight one, but it's because it's a Canadian and it's 9mm, it's quite chunky, so I don't take that out really in the car. In the car I tend to take my Rosebud, and if it's Vanilla Day, it would be my carved egg, and my other egg, and the 626. Those are the pipes I take with me most of the time. So they're all bent. What was that vehicle you were driving, Cliff? Is that all part of your property that you were driving through? That secret location? Yeah, hands them a sucker after dental visit. Trying to educate our kids now not to eat so many sweets. Or candy, as you'd call them. Yeah, we're breaking in the Sayakapo at the moment. And the other one, and this would be a great car pipe. The Vincato pipe, the Talamona, that would be a good pipe to have in the car. Nice bend on it, it's lightweight. That would be a good pipe for the car. Hey Sid, how you doing? Beerbid has returned. He's done a few videos recently, yeah. Kuboto RTV. Recreational something vehicle, is it? Old Dublin and McBride plum cake. I haven't smoked either. It's a diesel engine. I've got a lighter named Kubota or something like that. It's a Japanese-made lighter. Actually, very good lighters. It's like a mini old boy. I think I've still got it somewhere. I haven't actually had this out for a long time. This is all a bunch of old lighters, most of which need repairing or servicing. Some of them are actually very cool. You've probably seen them before, but I'm happy to show them if you're interested. But I want to see if I've still got that Kubota lighter. I had two at one stage and sold one of them. No, I don't have it. That's a shame. I'm pretty sure I do still have it somewhere. Oh, I think this is it. This is what is this? A Sarome. Yeah, this is it. Why did I say Kuboto? Maraman. This is the lighter I was talking about. It's got like a tang on the top there, but it's a very, very well made lighter. I should really try and use it again. I'm going to leave that out actually. It's a really, really nice lighter. Now this one I really, really like. This is a Ronson Veriflame, and it has this like the 1950s American sort of tail light styling. Yeah, it works. This is in almost mint condition. Really nice. I don't know if that's enamel or just painted metal, I'm not sure. It comes with a brush and bits and bobs that it originally came with. I'm trying to remember where I got this from. A Wilkinson sword pipe tool. This is a Savinelli I Am Corona. Has a built-in tamper at the bottom. I think this is silver plated. It's made by IM, but it's branded Savinelli. Yeah, you're right, Andrew. It is definitely more of a cigarette lighter. And there's a leather covered Veriflame, but the flint's gone on that. And I've got the spring, but it doesn't catch. It won't stay in there anymore. What's this? Dunhill. I think this is a cigarette holder. Yeah. Cumberland cigarette holder. I think a lot of this stuff I got from the Israti, so that's a Calibri. This one's also got a tamper. It's another I Am Corona. Some of these are quite lethal. You fill them up and then you spark it and the whole thing goes into flame. This is a Calibri. It's actually a very nice lighter. It's very slim, nice pocket lighter. Very, very easy to carry around, and it's quite reliable. I bought that actually in the cigar and snuff shop in Covent Gardens. And this is a cheapie, but it's actually very reliable. Colton pipe lighter. Pretty reliable lighter. See if I can get this one to work. Now, I'm not saying that I Am Coronas are dangerous, just my ones are old. I'm not sure if I might need to have an adapter on there. Oh, it's that way, like that. Yeah, that's probably why I don't have it out. So I think I shall put it back in rather than ruin it. But they are nice lighters. Very sort of solid and compact. It's basically like a mini old boy. I think most pipe smokers have probably got a drawer full of lighters that they don't use, and I'm no different. Well, Zippo, you can always get a Chinese knockoff. It'll give you the ping. It weighs as much as a ST DuPont. The gold is starting to come off in certain places, but still, I think I paid £15 for this, and it's a very solid and pretty reliable lighter. How they get away with carving ST DuPont on there, I don't know, but that's China for you. It looks very, very legit. eBay. That's from eBay. I think Tim Hermit Piper just recently got a new one. Well, it's got the ping, what can I tell you? It does look like it's carved from a solid piece, it really does. DuPont. It's got some serious heft. Even the bottom has got the little screw thing at the bottom that with a little lever to adjust the flame. It's very well made. I can't fault it for that kind of money. It says made in France, somehow I doubt that. The pipe is really going now, it's good. It's taken the majority of the bowl to really get going. Yeah, via Shenzhen. Exactly. Really rich flavors coming through now. Hey Sam, I don't know, the Dissim lighter, quite a lot of people bought them when they first came out. I resisted the urge. They just looked a little bit too big for me. And I think they've brought out a new one now, haven't they? I think Brebia have brought out a new lighter, which the Danish pipe shop are pushing. That's the new Brebia lighter with the tools. €50. I'll be honest with you, I really don't buy lighters anymore. I've got to give credit to James for that, because he recommended these and I've now bought 2 or 3 sets of these. And I use Bics and I use matches. They'll work for a bit and then they just are unreliable. It's not that they won't work, but they're just, you know, they're inconsistent, temperamental. This is a clipper, a long-necked clipper, and you can buy them with the kitchen ones with a much longer neck, but these are perfect for pipe smoking, absolutely spot on. They light every time, and they're refillable. I've got 5 or 6 of them knocking around. I think I paid about £3.50 for 3 of them, or maybe £5, something like that. Either 3 or 4 pack, I can't remember. I got those on Amazon actually. And you can get them in the US on Amazon as well. Cool. You can buy them direct. And Clipper also do one without the neck. You know the Clipper cigarette lighters that you can buy. So they do a similar one with a flint wheel, and the flame is angled at 45 degrees. But I find that I bought one of those years ago, thinking that was going to be it. A Clipper lighter, refillable and angled, great. But I found that you have to fire it at least 2 times to get it going, till enough gas got into the nozzle. I don't know why. It was just a weird thing. Yeah, the flame is adjustable on this one. But for me, so far, in the 7 or 8 years that I've been smoking a pipe, this is the best one so far. In terms of consistency and the fact that it's got the long neck, which is just perfect for, directing the flame into your bowl. Scripto. I actually use that as a tamper if I'm stuck. Definitely, it fits in most bowls. I've used it many times as a tamper. Yeah, but Phil, it'll do that every time. Even after you've used it and it's warm. Go back to it a couple of, maybe a minute later when it's still hot, and it'll still do the same thing. So it may have just been mine. Maybe it was faulty and it wasn't getting enough gas in, or it's just bad design. I don't know. But I never bought another one. But these, they're great. I got a couple in the car. Got a couple here. Okay, could be. Yeah, I've got a couple of Dunhill lighters as well. I think one of them needs a service and the other one works okay. My son, but I think it's actually a knockoff. My son got it in. He works in the jewellery district in Hatton Garden in London. He picked it up. It was like 30 quid, so I wasn't going to make a huge issue about it. I've got a couple of zippers which I used to use regularly, but now they've totally been superseded by the Clipper, but I have them on hand. I've got a few Zippos in my drawer, unused ones, but I've got the Jack Daniels used to be my go-to lighter, and this one at the moment it's got a torch in there. But this one definitely my go-to Zippo. This is a leather wrapped by Kraken Leather, which he raffled off to raise some money for something, and it's a great lighter. That's my favourite Zippo. The leather and the stitching just gives it a really good grip when you're trying to operate it single-handedly. Great lighter. I used to use the Zippo all the time, but since getting that, it's hard to beat. I was considering having a cigar as well tonight, but pretty sizable bowl in there. I'm still way off the bottom, but it's breaking in really well. The first half wasn't so good, but the second half was a lot better. some of the ash. Since you were 10 years old, Zippo. Yes, they are refillable. I've got to start thinking about some more Crown Series pipes. We've got the King's coronation coming up soon. In May, I think it is. So I'd like to have a few available Crown Series pipes made for that time. I still have one from the last round, but I think somebody's got dibs on that. Wants me to do some customization to it. That's a Crown Series I made a while back. A hefty, like a stand-up poker, but with a castle effect, sort of hewn out of rock almost. A bit dusty. You can see the crown, which is an extra stamp I used only on the Crown Series. But this guy, he's in the Masons, and he wants me to put a lodge, one of the lodge sort of logos engraved on there. So I've got to get the people who engraved my Crown Series with the ER for the Queen to possibly. I've got to get in touch with them and see if they can engrave that. So I've got to resand that clean and see if that can be done. To the stand that they fit into, that was part of the castle. Right, so that sort of pedestal that it sits on, that rock, that could be the stand, you mean? And then have the pipe sit into it. Yeah. Is that what you mean, Andrew? Well, I have one design in mind for which I think will be the sort of the main. You know, last time I had a couple which were really special. You know, I did a few in the series, but there was just like one or two that were really special, and I've got one in particular design in mind, which I have to kind of fine tune, and I still have to decide whether I'm going to put any jewels in it or not, any stones. Adam, we all go on that learning curve. It's a rite of passage that you just have to go through. And we all still make mistakes. Any pipe maker that says they don't ever make a mistake, well, there's a video on my channel called Pipe Making Warts and All, which I think I made two mistakes but still plodded on and managed to drag a pipe out of that block, and it ended up being quite a nice little pipe. This was early on in my pipe making, but sometimes you got to persevere and do something. Try and save a block if you can. If you've buggered it up totally, then you've buggered it up, nothing you can do about it, but sometimes it's worth persevering. Or alternatively, when I watched Father the Flame with Lee Van Erck, he says that if he has 3 mishaps which happen to him on any given day, he downs tools and that's it for the day. He just goes and does something else and starts again the next day. I'm not like that. I'm the opposite. I try to fight through it and overcome. Sometimes you got to admit when you're beat, and if a block is done, it's done. And I do have a box out in the garage which has got a handful of those pipes which are just done. There's nothing you can do about them. But many times, a bit of creativity, you can salvage a pipe. Oh, I see, it's just the stem that he messed up. Okay. Well, it's good practice. I remember once I got into a bit of a argy-bargy with there was a new pipe maker here in the UK, and he had literally just started, and he was talking about getting briar, where to get it from and stuff like that, and I recommended that he try a particular briar supplier which was very cheap but not great quality, so it's good to practice on. And somebody else who for some reason has some issue with me came on and said, don't listen to him, your pipes are fantastic, you don't need to buy rubbish briar, and just get good briar. And I said to the pipe maker, I didn't mean anything by it, I was just trying to save you some money, that if you still want stuff to practice on, buy cheap briar. But there you go, some people like to take umbrage easily. Yeah, I mean, if you try and force your will on something that's not happening, then yeah, you're going to get frustrated. But I'll only do it, you got, if it's doable. So I think that sometimes you got to get creative. To get aggressive, that's not going to work. And if that's, if you feel that you're getting aggressive about something, then absolutely walk away, or just take a new block and start again. But if by being creative you can do something with it, then I'd much rather do that, and I feel a lot better that I've salvaged the block. There is a pipe maker, I'm trying to remember who it was, possibly Nana Everson, possibly, where I read about in maybe his Pipe and Tobacco magazine, I'm not sure, where she said if she'd made a mistake on a block, or if she's carving a block and a whacking great big flaw comes up and she can't use it, then she'll just sand the block until it disappears, just to sort of have her revenge. Literally just sand it until it didn't exist anymore, and then get on with the next one. I thought that was an interesting approach. Yeah, if it's commission work, yeah. I've never done it myself, I must admit. See you, Cliff. Guys, if you haven't subscribed or resubscribed to Cliff, Pipe Ninja started a new channel, and I think it's not easy. It really isn't easy starting a new channel when you've had a successful channel with maybe 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers, and then you've got to start from scratch. Really hard to do that. So if you haven't resubscribed, or if you're not subscribed to Pipe Ninja, please go ahead and do that. Cliff is a top bloke, salt of the earth. He's a bit of a sadist, but other than that, he's a great guy. He's a sadist in the drilling sense. Yep, he's a dentist. But I know for a fact that he's a good bloke with a big heart, does a charitable work with his dentistry as well. So, subscribe to his channel. The sound of money, indeed. Right, Cliff. We're almost there. Still a bit to go. That reminded you of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. In what way? What reminded you of that? I'm not sure if I've ever seen a full thing of the Rocky Horror Show. Fincato, which is I mean, Novelli had some cigars, but they didn't really have Cubans. I don't think. If they had a few, but they didn't really have a walk-in humidor or anything like that. They just had a couple of humidor cabinets. I mean, they had plenty of cigars if you wanted to buy cigars, and of course, all of the shops, all of the local sort of small tobacconists had plenty of the Nostrano ones. Everybody's got those, and you walk in the street, and that's what you smell everywhere. I wish I would like them because they're cheap. But I didn't like them. But the guy in the Fincato shop, which has a proper humidor, he had lots of boxes of cigars stacked, but they were all empty. So you can't just a display. He did have some. I mean, he took out a beautiful box to a beautiful new cabinet, 25 cab of Hoyle Monterey, the big fat ones. I bought 2 of them. They're downstairs in my humidor now. For like 25 quid. Here in the UK, they'd be easily 50, 60 pounds. Whenever I have been to Europe and bought cigars, I've always regretted that I haven't bought more. But, you know, when I go traveling, I'm kind of exhausting funds just to be there, you know, so it's really hard. But I managed to buy maybe 7 or 8 cigars, and then the box of 5 half Coronas, H. Upmann. But it's they've had a bad crop as well, I think, in Cuba. So they've had just difficulty supplying the world with cigars. There was a time when, due to COVID, they couldn't produce the cedar boxes, so a lot of cigars were sitting around. And when I was in JJ Fox's one of the recent visits, I was speaking to one of the guys there, and I was picking up a cigar, and I always lift the box up to see the box date, and I always ask, are you just putting new cigars into that box, or are the cigars actually from this box date? And they said, yeah, it's from the box date. And they said that any box dates which are about 2021, 2022, not 22, maybe about 21 certainly, they're actually, a lot of them, there's a good chance that they're from 2019, because they haven't been able to send them out because they didn't have any cedar boxes. So a lot of them, and I've actually found that 2020, even before I heard this, I had been saying many times that the 2020 cigars are tasting great. And it all makes sense when he told me that they're actually got 2 or 3 years age on them already. So for a Cuban cigar, that's fantastic. So there's just been a supply. I don't know whether it's the crops or whether it's COVID or what, I don't know. But there's been supply issues. Although JJ Foxes seem to have plenty cigars. Maybe not every single Vitola, maybe not every size, but they had no shortage of cigars there. But you do see an increase of New World cigars, no question about it. Well, I hope that's going to be untrue, Phil, for Cuban cigars. Because the prices have gone through the roof for Cuban cigars, and I'm hoping that Habanos will see the error of their ways and bring the prices back down. Somehow I doubt it, but I hope they do. It's become now, it always was a bit of a lifestyle choice, Cuban cigars, but now even more so, more than ever. And it's really for the super wealthy, most of the brands now. In the UK at least. We both know Italy bribe producers were restricted to less than hours during mandates. Imagine the same for cigars. I don't think so. I think with Cuba, it's really down to the yield each year. I think they've had a bad year. I don't think they give a monkeys. They would like to sell as many as they can, if they can. Yeah, I've spoken to the Sahakians many times. Very nice people. They also run the Bulgari cigar lounge in the Bulgari Hotel. And so I was looking for a particular cigar at the time. It's going back a few years. And Eddie, that's Edward's son, he told me to go to the Bulgari lounge. At the time, the sommelier there was, I can't remember his name now, an Asian fellow. He's very, very well known. I think he runs his own business now in cigars. So he was the sommelier there. And anyway, they had the cigar there. Expensive, because they're rare. And they're out of the Sahakians' cellar anyway. But anyway, so I went there during the afternoon one time, and Eddie was there. Just the two of us just sat and chatted for a while, which was very nice. It's not looking good. That's all I can say to you. It's not looking good at the moment, because they're going to bring in regulations like I think they've done in Australia or New Zealand, where they're saying that it's going to be illegal for anybody below a certain age to smoke. They're going to make it actually illegal. So they're not going to make it illegal for people who are already of smoking age, but they'll basically say that anybody born after a certain date, it'll be illegal for them to smoke, and within, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 years, it'll be illegal to smoke. And the UK are talking about it as well. Well, when you say it's not constitutional, so how is it that you can't buy drugs in America legally? Why can't you buy cannabis? Or why can't you buy hard drugs? If it's constitutional to have the right to do stuff. Once they class it as something which is, let's say, poisonous, then it bypasses the Constitution, doesn't it? It's really surreal because I think that we kind of in a bit of a golden age when it comes to tobacco. There's such a huge variety of tobacco these days. Yet we could be at the sort of the nail in the coffin kind of situation where it's really going to start having to contract. That the industry to survive will have to start contracting because within, I would say, 10 years, 15 years, less and less people will be smoking pipes. Even though there's possibly been a bit of a renaissance in the last 10 years, I think it's going to go back again. If the governments have their way, then that's going to happen. Which will mean that big tobacco companies will have to contract their range. They won't be able to have 200-300 different blends because they won't be able to support it. They won't be able to sell them. So you'll see a lot of blends going by the wayside, and you'll have a core sort of range that sell. For instance, McBaron a few years ago dropped some of their range because they weren't selling as much, and they brought back some of the range, like the Latakia roll cake, for instance. That went away a long time ago, and they brought it back for a while. I don't know if they're still doing it. But yeah, okay, marijuana might be legal in some places, but the principle of it is that there are certain drugs that you can't buy. That's illegal. And if it was unconstitutional, then it shouldn't be illegal. But I guess once something is classed as a dangerous substance, then it bypasses that. Then the government then considers that it has a duty to make it illegal. I don't know how they're going to combat it, to be honest, because the weight of pressure on the other side of the argument is so big, because we're such a small minority that it's like David and Goliath, but Goliath is 10 times larger. I really don't know how it will work. I really don't know how it will work, because you may have boutique companies producing small amounts of tobacco if they've got a dedicated customer base, but and that may work. But the large companies, the McBarons of this world and the STGs of this world, they've got such big operations that they won't be able to sustain it, so they'll have to contract. And if anything, maybe companies like, I don't know, JF Germain, which people always sort of wondered why didn't they go big. They've got such a huge following, why didn't they go big? But now you think about it, maybe their long-term plan made sense. Keep it small, keep it in the family, and they could stay small, keep their production small, and hopefully survive. Well, they do cigarettes, don't they? Don't they? Don't the Indians do? Don't they have a big cigarette production? I don't know what the woke term is to call them. Is it native Indians, or I don't know. Yeah, that's because it's such a minority. And the reason for that is because the majority of tobacco is cigarettes, and I think it's universally accepted that cigarettes are much, much more dangerous than other forms of tobacco consumption. So the other forms of tobacco consumption, like cigars, pipe tobacco, snuff, these kind of things, they're all being tied in together with cigarette tobacco, and cigarette tobacco everybody says is dangerous, and therefore the weight of opinion is hugely against any kind of tobacco consumption, because it's just lumped in together with cigarettes in the uneducated person's opinion. So somebody who doesn't smoke a pipe and doesn't understand the difference, they're not even thinking about it. It's tobacco. Tobacco is dangerous, and so therefore you're always going to have that weight of opinion against pipe tobacco and cigars. Cheers, Cole. I think the FDA don't want to discern. They know the difference. They're not stupid. And the fact that they held off the whole deeming dates and all of that kind of thing and suspended that is because they've obviously recognized the difference. But whether it'll make a difference in the long term or not, I don't know. With vaping as well, right? Well, we'll yet to see what happens with vaping. I think vaping is still young. It still doesn't make sense to me that people are inhaling huge amounts of liquid into their lungs. I don't understand why it is that people aren't suffering with pneumonia and things like that, but clearly they're not. But in the long term, I think people still don't know. I think the jury is still out. And I guess they're inhaling the vapor and then exhaling it, but I would imagine that some of the vapor stays in there, so you're getting essentially water in your lungs. So I don't quite understand it, but I mean, two of my kids use vapes. Three actually, three of my kids use vapes. I've never really gotten into it because I never picked up a pipe for the nicotine. It could well be that now I am used to the nicotine or want the nicotine, but I never picked up the pipe. I picked up the pipe as a hobby. Obviously, I've become tolerant to nicotine over the time and increased it perhaps by smoking cigars as well. But nicotine was never, I didn't smoke cigarettes before, at least not for 30 years. So Exactly 45, but that is what they do. That's to make them addictive. Do you know what? Ultimately, Bull Moose, it's all about money. So somebody somewhere has worked it out that the cost of fixing people who are suffering from the results of smoking costs more than the tax income. That's got to be the bottom line. I can't see any other reason. Although I'm not quite sure how that works in America because you're all private. Here in the UK, it's the NHS. So it could be that the cost of the medical bill for the NHS for people suffering with smoking related illnesses is more than the tax that they get in. I don't know if that is the case, but presumably that's what the issue is. Here in the UK, I don't think it's to do with the licensing. It's to do with people don't like the smell of pipe smoke, and it interferes with their sensibilities when they're trying to smoke a cigar. That's the impression I get from JJ Fox's, is that pipe smoke tends to be aromatic in smell, even if it's not an aromatic, but it has more of an aromatic aroma. And most of the people, I think the old codgers and these kind of guys who smoke pipes, smoke aromatics or Lakelands, and it's a completely different aroma to cigars, and it disturbs their enjoyment of their cigars. That's what I've seen in the UK anyway. But JJ Fox's is quite happy for you to sit and have a pipe. Don't really have a problem. But for some reason they're not allowing the pipe club to re-establish there anymore. I'm trying to smoke it right to the heel so that you get an even initial coating for the first smoke of this. We're almost there. See, the advantage of this lighter is that you can go right in the bowl and not scorch the outside. I mean, I have managed to scorch it a bit, but it smoked quite well, certainly better in the second half. And I think once I've finished this bowl, I think the next bowl will be a lot better. Plus I'm smoking Capstan Blue, which I only decanted maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, so it's still very fresh, so it needs more time. So maybe the next bowl will be OGS. I haven't tried Capstan Yellow, at least not recently. No, we're not allowed to. The pipe club so far has not been there for since the beginning of COVID, so it's nearly 3 years. And it doesn't look like it's going to re-establish there. There was talk about meeting up there just informally, but so far that hasn't happened. No, the Aladino is still in my humidor. I've actually kept yours all in a bag, so I know that they're from you. So when I do a video, I do intend to do a video of each of the ones that you gave me. So whenever I get round to it, I'll at least be able to refer to the fact that they came from you. Tobacco is harmless until you light it? Really? Hey Mike, how you doing? Somebody else pointed out Aladino to me. I think it was Tim Hermit Piper. I mean, he's really on a cigar kick at the moment, and I think he was smoking an Aladino recently. Well, I do enjoy nasal snuff. I must say, I only smoke. I only use one snuff really. I have a variety of snuffs, but I don't use them. And the only one that I really use regularly is these, which I smoke, which I use every weekend on Saturdays because I don't smoke a pipe on a Saturday. And this is the one I use, and I really, really like it. I haven't tried chewing tobacco at all, no. Should be on now. I don't know if you can see me or not. I think we're back on. My internet, as I said earlier on, right at the beginning of tonight's stream, I'm out of contract at the moment, and I think they're trying to persuade me to go for a more advanced internet connection. And I had this last time when I was out of contract. Suddenly, my internet became intermittent and unreliable, and I'm pretty sure that that's, even though I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm pretty sure it's just too coincidental. Whenever I get out of contract, suddenly my internet starts to play around. You'd think in this day and age that they couldn't get away with that, but somehow it just feels that way. It just seems too odd that it should happen when I'm out of contract. Hey, Stabby. That's all right. My package is just phone and internet. I don't have a TV. I mean, who needs a TV nowadays anyway? You remind me of Bill Burr, Phil. He hates calling companies, so he just pays the bill, even though he's not using something. And more it becomes harder and harder to actually speak to a human being. And phoning any of these kind of companies just becomes a hair-pulling experience. It's like you got to take sedatives afterwards to calm you down. Nica Rustica. Had those a long time ago. A nice, cheap, economic cigar. Good cigar. It's one of the first cigars I smoked, I think, in my early days. I was quite impressed with it. In the early days, there weren't that many New World cigars available here, and that was one that I think you could get here. Nowadays, there's a huge variety. You even get some of the sort of boutique cigars, not as many as you guys, but some, depending on who's importing them. Hey Ari, how you doing? I haven't ordered from them as yet, no. One of these days I'm sure that I will. But to be honest, having come across the Corum bundles from Smoking Pipes, it's hard to beat. For 40 odd bucks for 20 cigars, for a good cigar, that's very hard to beat. And a good size. I got a Toro size. These ones that I've got here. These are the natural ones, which are sun-grown. I mean, it's not a great cigar in terms of, you know, the build. I think there's maybe short leaf in there. I'm not sure. You do get some bits in your mouth when you're smoking, but they work out at about $1.50, if that, per cigar for a Toro sized cigar. Not quite Toro. It's about 6 inches by 50 ring gauge. So Toro would be 6 by 52, I think, or 54. But for the money, that's ridiculous. Like $1.50 for a cigar. For a cigar that's going to last you a couple of hours. It's just unbeatable. You need to order a pipe for me, Ari. Support the clan, support the tribe. I did see a video about the signature number one. I think the Sahakians were smoking it with the American geezer who does all the clothes videos. Kirby Allison, that's it. I do like his videos, I must be honest, and I enjoy watching them chatting, but I get a little bit annoyed when they talk about no worries, no pressure, Harry. I'm just whenever you're ready, no problem. But I get a bit frustrated when they're sitting there smoking a cigar which would cost $300 or $400 for a single cigar, and they talk about how great Cuban cigars are and all of that kind of thing, and they are. I'm a Cuban cigar fan, but they're just unaffordable, and the construction is still useless. And I don't know why they almost like they ignore it. Yeah, the Fuchs videos are funny. I remember when they started their channel. I've kind of watched them from day one, and I thought they were quite kooky. And I thought, is this going to go anywhere? But it has. They've got a big following already. You, the viewer. It's always about the viewer. It's a good job they don't have a metal detector in Davidoff's, that's all I can say. The amount of metal they've got on their hands. I think a lot of the eccentricity is kind of done for the show, for the stream, but you know, they're entertaining. Ultimately, that's what they're there for, to entertain people. And you Americans are suckers for that, aren't you? A bit of stiff upper lip Englishman. Yeah, exactly, Adam. I remember when he started off, when he first joined the Davidoff shop, and he was just an assistant there. And he served me a few times, and he was just, at that stage, he was just a trainee. But he's now an official, accredited, he's just passed his Hunters and Franca, or whatever the qualification is called. So he's an official cigar guy. Scratching and rubbing upon the anglophone. Is there any way to revive them? Well, it really depends. If they've been in your humidor with zero humidity, with nothing in there to keep the humidity for 8 years, well, I think you're never going to really recover them to their former glory. You might make them smokable, but you're not going to really recover. If the humidor has kind of, it depends on your environment, it depends where in the country you are, what the humidity is like, that kind of thing, and you might be lucky. If they've been in there and the humidor hasn't been opened too much, and you've had other cigars in there which were correctly humidified, the cigars themselves hold a certain amount of humidity and will transfer that humidity into the humidor. It really depends on the whole situation. If you can give me a little bit more about that, I can maybe comment a bit more. There we are, smoked right down to the hill, no dottle, dry as a bone in there. I don't know if you can see that. That smoked very well. The drill is right at the bottom of the bowl, so that smoked well. I don't usually smoke a bowl from top to bottom. It's only when I'm breaking in a pipe that I do that, or try to do that. But that smoked well. I've got a good coating from top to bottom, so I'm very happy about that. And usually when I break in a pipe, I'll smoke it as often as I can, at least once a day for a while, which does help to break it in, even though you should really rest the pipe. But when I'm breaking in a pipe, especially if I want it to absorb a certain genre of tobacco, I'll smoke it regularly in the beginning. Alright, gentlemen, it's 25 to 2 and we've been on for 2.5 hours, so that's one of my longer sessions recently. I've kind of been doing shorter sessions recently, but really enjoyed tonight's chat. Humidor and cigars inside were properly humidified at one point. Humidor hasn't been opened since that point, about 8 years ago. Humidity where you live is in the 40% range. That's pretty low. That's pretty low. I mean, if you take the cigars out and you roll them between your fingers, are they crackly? I mean, are they bone dry? And we had a really good attendance tonight. I think we had 49 or 50 at one point, which is very nice. So while I wait for Ari's answer, I'll do my thank yous. Thank you, Stabby. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Richard. Piper. Thank you, Piper Wondering. Adam. Ari Goldberg. Uncle Larry, Bull Moose Piper, Chip. Piper said. Bull Moose, Andrew Sirigliano. Chip might have said that. Oscar Flores, Philip Rivara, Pipe Maker Extraordinaire, Piper on the 45, Patrick Grant, Daniel Leslie, and everybody else. Mike Blocker of the Gamecock. Haven't opened it up yet. Was waiting till I had the game plan. How big is the humidor? Are we talking about a desktop humidor, or are we talking about a cabinet? Well, I would say that the humidity depends on what your style of cigar smoking is. If you go through your cigars quickly, let's say you buy a box, smoke it, you buy another box, then I think that you really want to have them around 69. If you're somebody who puts away cigars, it's a desktop, and it hasn't been opened in 8 years. Can you see through? Has it got a glass top? If you're a guy who has cigars which are in there for a long time, you could go lower, to 65 humidity. If you're going up to 70, which the industry says is the right thing to do, 70% and 70 degrees temperature, that's kind of a very sort of industry standard. But if you're into your cigars, then you want them a little bit less than that. You can't see in. I mean, when you open it, there may be a lot of mold in there. It's quite possible. And if that's the case, you're kind of done. You may have a lot of plume, which is different, which is a dust, which will rub off easily. And that's okay. That will usually be a good sign. But if it's mold and you rub it off and there's still a spot on there, then that's moldy. You don't want to smoke moldy cigars. But I would say just get, if you've got 20 cigars in there, just get a Boveda pack. Get a 69% Boveda pack and just throw it in there, leave it for a few weeks, and see how you go. If it's really crackly dry, then as I say, over a period of a few weeks you might reintroduce the moisture into the cigars, but the chances are that the essential oils which are in the cigar will evaporate over time. If it's most humidors, even though if the lid is closed, there is a minute amount of environmental exchange between inside the humidor and outside the humidor. You don't want it to be 100% airtight. So there's always a very slight, it would be a trickle, but there is an exchange. So that's why you need to have a humidifier in there in order to keep recharging that humidity into the humidor. But yeah, I would say Oscar is absolutely right. If they are bone dry, start low, because you don't want the cigars to explode. They'll absorb too much moisture too quickly, and they'll expand and they'll start to crack. Yeah, so I would agree, start at 65. But don't keep opening it. Put the Boveda pack in there, get a large Boveda pack. Don't get the small ones, get a large one. 65, put it in there and leave it for a few weeks. You've left it for 8 years, you can manage another few weeks. But you've got to sort of accept the fact that they may well not be back. You won't get them back to their original condition because you'll have lost a lot of that essential oils. But they may well be smokable, and the fact that it hasn't been opened at all may be a saving grace. You never know. If it's been in an environment which isn't too dry, and maybe that humidor is sealed tight, if it hasn't been opened, maybe it has sealed tight. You may be lucky. And what I would say is, once you do put the Boveda in there, leave it for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then open it, and then just rotate the cigars 180 degrees, and then close it again for a few weeks. and then do that maybe 2 or 3 times, you may be okay. But they may not be perfect, but they can certainly be smokable. I didn't know you could get 62s. I've never used 62s, but yeah, if you can get 62 Movidas, then start at 62. All right, folks. Yeah, let us know how you get on, Harry. I'm going to wish you all well. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I will catch you on the next one.